What if I told you that your struggle with lust, your silent war with sexual urges, isn't weakness, it's warfare, and not just any battle, but the one standing between you and the rise of your spiritual power. Every time you say no to temptation, you're not just avoiding sin, you're unlocking authority, an authority the world can't see, but the spirit realm can't ignore. This is not about self-control. It's about purpose. It's about sacred fire. It's about the divine weight you were born to carry. And if you're watching this right now, you already know, deep down, you were never meant to be average. You feel it. That quiet pull in your chest. That strange disconnect from the crowd. The way lust tries to keep you low. Because heaven is calling you higher. Let me be clear. 90 days without sex. 90 days without masturbation isn't just a detox. It's a spiritual rebirth. Because when a man separates himself, he becomes a vessel for something sacred, something fierce, something eternal. And what happens after those 90 days might just shock you. So don't blink. Don't skip. Don't look away. This message is not for everyone. It's for the chosen, and if that word stirs something in you, you already know who you are. Tap the like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and drop 99 in the comments as a sign of spiritual alignment, because 9 is the number of finality, and you're about to end a cycle and step into your true calling. Let's begin. You've been told that energy is just about calories, about movement, about metabolism. But let me show you what they never teach in schools. When you abstain, when you cut off the endless cycle of sexual release, you're not just preserving physical strength. You're awakening spiritual electricity. It starts subtle. You wake up one morning and feel sharper. You walk into a room and people glance at you differently. Your eyes become anchored, grounded, intense, because you're no longer scattering. Your power. You're concentrating it. And here's the part that no one expects. When a man stops releasing his seed without purpose, his voice changes. His posture shifts. His walk becomes slower, heavier, deliberate. Because his energy is no longer leaking into the void, it's flowing back into him. You see, your seed is not just a biological substance. It's a container, a sacred vessel of intelligence, legacy, identity, and command. Every time it leaves you without reason, a piece of your inner world goes with it. But when you hold it, when you rise above the craving, your nervous system recalibrates, your mind becomes still, and your spirit starts to glow. Yes, glow, but not like light, more like weight. A kind of invisible gravity forms around you. Strangers treat you differently. Your words carry influence even in silence. You become undeniable. Why? Because your aura, your spiritual field, is no longer fractured by lust. It's whole, magnetic, commanding. Women sense it. Men feel it. But most won't understand it, because this energy doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It doesn't perform. It just is. And when you enter that space, where your essence is fully intact, you begin to remember who you are. Not who the world told you to be, but the version of you that heaven whispered into existence. The version that was always meant to walk with authority but couldn't, because the fuel was leaking. And here's where it gets deeper. This energy doesn't just change how others see you. It changes what you attract. People with hidden agendas will suddenly feel exposed around you. Opportunities that once passed you by will begin to open. Your environment adjusts itself, not because you chased it, but because your inner current became too strong to ignore. This is why abstinence, real, sacred abstinence, is a forgotten weapon. It turns weak men into pillars. It turns noise into vision. It turns distraction into direction. But let me warn you, this shift is not comfortable. You'll feel urges rise like fire in your bones. Your body will try to rebel. Your mind will scream for escape, because what you're doing is rare, dangerous, revolutionary. You're interrupting a system designed to keep you dependent, empty, and spiritually sedated. But if you hold the line, if you stay locked in, you'll reach a moment where the temptation fades and the power takes over. And when that day comes, you won't need to announce who you are. Your energy will speak for you, and trust me, it will speak loudly. But that's just the beginning. Because once your power starts rising, so do the tests. The next phase? It's where most chosen ones get ambushed. Not from the outside, but from within. And what happens next will determine if you truly ascend or fall back into the cycle. Let's talk about that now. There's a reason most men today feel lost, even the strong ones, even the ones who look like they've got it all together. They're not lazy, they're not broken, they're fogged, blinded by an invisible film, a cloud that sits over the mind like smoke after a spiritual fire has been smothered. And do you know what causes it? Lust. Not just the act of lusting, but the constant flood of images, cravings, fantasies, and false dopamine that hijacks the brain every single day. You don't even realize it's happening. It starts with a glance, a scroll, a click, and before you know it, your mental bandwidth is gone. You can't focus. You can't finish what you start. You can't hear from God, because your mind is tuned to static. This is not about morality. This is about mental warfare. Because lust doesn't just affect your urges. It fractures your inner vision. And when you can't see, you can't build. You can't lead. You can't even know who you are. But something miraculous happens. When you finally pull the plug, the moment you break the pattern, when you cut the signal that's been feeding your flesh and starving your soul, everything begins to sharpen. It doesn't happen all at once. But little by little, the fog starts to lift. Colors look different. Time feels slower. Conversations become clearer. You start to feel yourself again, but not the broken version. The ancient one, the one beneath the noise. And then ideas come, not shallow ones, not the recycled thoughts you used to copy from others, but original downloads, blueprints, visions, instructions. You begin to see how your pain had a pattern. You see why certain doors were blocked. You start connecting dots from your past, and the story starts to make sense. You're not just thinking more clearly, you're seeing through the veil, and it doesn't stop there. Suddenly, people's intentions become transparent. You no longer get played, manipulated, or misled, because your spirit is no longer asleep. You see your habits differently. You spot traps before they happen. You understand the voice of God, not as a whisper in the wind, but as a frequency that flows through every decision. This is why your clarity is feared, because when a man sees clearly, he becomes dangerous to the system. He's no longer a slave to lust. He becomes a seer. And in ancient times, seers didn't just interpret dreams. They shifted empires. That same capacity is inside you. But it was buried under years of spiritual noise. When you stop draining your essence, your mind becomes a throne, and God begins to reign from there. But there's a cost, because with clarity comes responsibility. You'll start to notice things you used to ignore. You'll feel convicted about words, environments, relationships, even your own thoughts. You'll see too much to go back. And that's when the voice inside you gets louder. That voice you tried to silence. That feeling you've had since childhood. The one that said you were made for more. And this time, you won't just hear it, you'll believe it. Because now your eyes are open, and what you see next might just demand a version of you that you've never met before, but you're about to meet him in the next chapter. You thought you were just resisting lust, saying no to a habit, fighting off urges, controlling your body. But what if I told you? You were actually fighting for something eternal. Every moment you choose purity, every time you deny the flesh, you're not just avoiding sin. You're being watched by heaven, by hell, by the entire spirit realm. Because the battle you're in is about more than your pleasure. It's about your position, your authority, your rank. Let me explain. In the spiritual world, there are no titles without battles, no crowns without crosses, no power without death to the flesh. And when a man lays down the most primal parts of himself, not because he has to, but because he chooses to, something begins to shift in his identity. He's no longer just a believer. He becomes a threat. He's not just a man, he's a marked one, branded in the spirit. A warrior who refused to bow to the altars of lust, addiction, and comfort, and heaven takes note. Because heaven is not moved by appearance. It's not impressed by talent, charisma, or image. But when God sees a man who denies himself in secret, who chooses consecration when no one's watching, he begins to authorize him. Heaven starts assigning weight to your words, to your prayers, to your silence. Suddenly, when you speak, angels move, atmospheres change, chains break. Why? Because you paid the price for spiritual weight. You gave up what the world glorifies to carry what the world can't explain. And don't think hell isn't watching too. Because when you walk in purity, when your heart is clean and your vessel is full, demons recognize you, not with fear like in the movies, but with respect. They don't attack you like before. They strategize around you. They send distractions, counterfeits, emotional setups, because you've become too costly to confront head-on. Why? Because they see what men can't, that you've crucified your weakness. And in its place, you carry fire. Unshakable fire. You're no longer reactionary. You don't chase validation. You don't break under temptation. You walk with something ancient, something sacred, something violent in the spirit, but peaceful in your presence. And it didn't come from a sermon or a self-help book. It came from your private war, from the lonely nights, the unseen tears, the moments where you wanted to give in, but didn't. That's where your authority was forged. In the fire, no one applauded. In the silence, no one saw. And now, you're not just a man. You're a vessel. Heaven recognizes you. Hell avoids you. And earth begins to listen to you. Because a man who carries true authority doesn't have to announce himself. The spirit realm already did. But listen closely, because here's where it gets deeper. This authority is not a trophy. It's a responsibility, a weight, and if you don't understand how to handle it, you'll attract power without purpose. You'll carry favor without the discipline to protect it. The next phase? That's where legacy begins. And in that dimension, every step matters. Let's go there. Now. There's something that happens when a man masters his urges. Something most don't talk about. Something powerful, unspoken, almost magnetic. It doesn't start with words. It's not your clothes. It's not your haircut, your smile, or your status. It's your frequency. When a man walks through life with his sexual energy untouched, stored, protected, he radiates something ancient. Women don't just notice it. They feel it. Without you saying a word, they sense a presence that's different, stronger, uncommon. Because in a world full of men driven by lust, a man driven by purpose is a shock to the system. He doesn't stare, he doesn't chase, he doesn't try to impress. He observes, he listens, he carries stillness like a weapon. And that stillness? It makes noise, because when a man is no longer moved by flesh, the flesh begins to move toward him. Not in fear, but in fascination. You see, Most women aren't used to spiritual men. They're used to men who want something. Men who look with hunger, who lead with need, who are secretly hoping for a moment of validation, attention, or conquest. But when you've killed the beast inside, when you've taken your lust and laid it on the altar, you become untouchable. And suddenly, they start looking at you differently, not because they want you, but because they don't understand you. They feel something steady, unbothered, a quiet power that can't be seduced. And that's where the test begins. Because let me tell you the truth. This attraction is not a reward. It's a trap, a test of your new level. The same spirits that used to attack your phone screen at night now walk into rooms wearing perfume. They know they can't tempt your eyes anymore, so they go after your confidence. They try to convince you that you've earned this, that you deserve a little pleasure now, that all this purity must lead to something, and it does, but not that. Because this season is not about pleasure, it's about preparation. You're being positioned. Your name is being whispered in rooms you've never entered. Doors are forming in the spirit. The weight of your voice is increasing, but one moment of distraction, one compromise, one innocent connection, and all that authority, gone. That's how the enemy works. He doesn't come with fire and horns. He comes with charm, with smiles, with timing. The closer you get to purpose, the more attractive you become to those who were never assigned to your future. That's why discernment is everything now. Because not every beautiful woman is a blessing, and not every connection is confirmation. Some are assignments, sent to distract, detour, and dismantle you. And if you fall, not only do you lose your momentum, you teach the enemy how to break you. But if you stay steady, if you hold your frame, guard your spirit, and walk with reverence, you become more than attractive. You become holy, and holiness has a glow that no makeup can match. It attracts the right kind of woman, the rare kind, the kind who prays more than she posts, the kind who sees your silence and doesn't try to fill it. She honors it, but you'll never find her if you fall for the ones who came to test your power. So stay focused, stay chosen, stay hidden in God. Because what's coming next will require a version of you that can't be swayed by anything or anyone. And the man who survives this phase, he doesn't chase what's next. He walks into it with fire in his eyes and a sword in his spirit. After 90 days, something in your spirit doesn't just feel different. It is different. You're no longer fighting the same battles. You're not haunted by the same urges. You've graduated from surviving to aligning. Because what you just walked through wasn't just about quitting a habit. It was about being prepared for purpose, prepared for movement, prepared for alignment. See, once your vessel becomes clean, God doesn't just bless you, He begins to assign you. He trusts you with deeper truths. He hands you heavier keys, and He begins to place you in rooms that require silence, discernment, and obedience. Not everyone sees it, but they feel it. Your voice suddenly carries a strange weight. People listen, not because you speak louder, but because you speak from a place few have been. You're no longer repeating what you heard, you're now releasing what you carry. Because when a man walks 90 days without pollution, when he's no longer ruled by impulse, lust, or vanity, he becomes a prophetic instrument. And prophetic doesn't always mean religious. It means you walk with precision. You move in sync with divine timing. You don't chase things. They come looking for you, because heaven put your name on the door. You'll notice things start shifting. You don't attract chaos anymore. You attract clarity. You don't beg for opportunities. You become the opportunity. You stop trying to fit into people's lives and begin to realize you were designed to disrupt them. You walk into places and don't even realize it. But the room adjusts. Conversations pause. People lean in, not because you're special, but because you're sent, because the man who conquers himself is now ready to carry something greater than himself, and God wastes nothing. Every tear, every restless night, every battle with lust, shame, guilt, and silence was a brick in the foundation of your real identity. And now, you've become a vessel, fit for purpose, set apart for impact. But here's the part most men don't expect. Once you're aligned, you'll notice that the resistance increases, not because you're off track, but because the enemy just got the notification. He's activated. Now you don't just live for yourself. You carry generations inside you. Bloodlines shift when you speak. Patterns break when you pray. Destinies awaken when you show up. You're no longer part of the system. You've been assigned to confront it, and you can't carry that assignment if your vessel is leaking. That's why the fire is stronger now. That's why the temptation comes back disguised as rest, comfort, reward. But now, you see through it. Because when you walk in purpose, you stop asking for easy. You start praying for clarity. You stop chasing pleasure. You start chasing obedience. You don't just want to feel good. You want to finish well. And when a man decides that finishing well is more important than feeling good, he becomes unstoppable. But don't relax just yet. Because now that your feet are aligned, the next step requires your full spirit. Because what's waiting ahead is not just a blessing, it's a commission. And once you accept that commission, everything changes. Listen to me. This was never just a video. It was a summons. Something inside you is waking up. Something ancient. Something royal. Something the world tried to bury beneath addiction, distraction, and shame. But now, that voice inside you is no longer a whisper. It's a roar. You were never meant to crawl through life, begging for validation. You were born to command, to interrupt darkness just by entering the room, to shift atmospheres by your mere presence. The reason your war has been so intense is because your assignment is not small. This path of 90 days, it's not a restriction. It's your refining fire. It's the forging of a weapon heaven intends to use. Every time you say no to lust, you're saying yes to legacy. Every time you overcome temptation, you're shaking the unseen realm. Demons flinch, angels take position, because they recognize who you are now, not because of your words, but because of your consecration. You are not like the others. You've been marked. Your energy now carries weight. Your steps carry purpose, and your silence carries prophecy. From this moment on, you don't move like a slave. You walk like a son. You don't chase pleasure. You carry fire. You've been activated, anointed, assigned, and the world has no idea what's about to be released through you. So this is your charge. Stand firm. Stay pure. Stay